discussing this, there's two fragments, fragment number 2 and fragment number 6, that were argued about, and they finally ended up finding a way on how to put these two fragments together. Let me see if I can get this in a better light. But they put these two fragments together, and you can see how the words from this fragment go over and match the words to this fragment in several different sentences. So they had to put that together to come to an idea, an understanding. There, you can see it even better there. You see I've circled it in red, how those two fragments are connected. But again, you can see the big gap here. You can see the gap here. You can see these are not complete, they're just little bitty pieces. But they finally found a way to stitch these together so that they can continue reading across and getting a fuller context. Well, when you have tens of thousands of fragments like this, it's a pretty impressive undertaking. I have the complete 2 large volumes of all the pictures of the fragments of the scrolls. It's electrifying on the amount of work we have to do yet still. But it's exciting work because it's giving us a context of early Judaism. It's giving us a context of early Christianity. It's giving us a context of Scripture and the canon. And it's giving us an idea of the rise of apocalyptic. We now understand this type of pseudepigrapha because it's falsely called after Melchizedek. Well, actually, the scholars called it the Melchizedek text because Melchizedek was the main subject. But these books of Enoch and these testaments of the 12 patriarchs and the various types of pseudepigraphic literatures, these arose in this milieu between the testaments. There was a 400-year gap there. The Jews didn't quit writing. We moderns have classified their texts as less than canonical Scripture. But the canon wasn't to occur for another 400 years into the future. They understood this as Scripture. Their inspired commentary, the Habakkuk commentary, the Nahum commentary, these commentaries on Melchizedek, the Isaiah scroll, the Book of Jubilees, all of this material to these people were Scripture. You see, we ought to appreciate what the scholars are doing for us. It is an impressive undertaking. And of course they're going to discuss and squabble about the various translation and meanings of the texts. We understand that. That's scholarship. That's the essence of scholarship. Someone's going to argue between the difference between the letter Tav and the letter He on a particular fragment. And that can make a difference in translation. We understand it's tentative. There's nothing proven with any of this at this point. But our knowledge and our understanding is beginning to make better sense. Now when we read about Melchizedek from the Dead Sea Scrolls, and when we put this all together and reread the canon, and we reread the pseudepigrapha that we do have now, thanks to James H. Charlesworth and R.H. Charles. He did 2 huge studies on the Book of Enoch and the Book of Jubilees that I'll get to eventually. When we see this greater light and knowledge and our ability to contextualize and understand some really strange sayings in the Scriptures that we couldn't understand before because they're taking their world for granted. You know, we would say, for our modern age, for instance, we would say something like this. We would say, well, I went to the store and went grocery shopping. But the store is 8 miles away. And I left at 2:30 this afternoon, and I got back at 10 after 3. To someone who isn't aware that we actually got into an automobile, turned the key on, started the car, and stuck it in reverse, and drove out of our driveway in reverse, and then stuck it in drive, and got into the lanes, and went through traffic and all that, we take that for granted. We simply say, oh, we went to the store, and it only took us a half hour. Someone else in the future, if they don't have automobiles because oil runs out, they would read that account and they would say, that's impossible. You can't possibly cover 8 miles and shop and then get back in a half an hour. Something's wrong with this text. Would they be justified in saying that the whole account is fiction? Of course not. We take things for granted also, just like the ancients did, because it was their common everyday experience, you see. But by getting a better, bigger background, we have a better comprehension of the Scripture, and that's why I appreciate the scholars. Because anything to give us further light and knowledge about the Scriptures, for me personally, is really exciting. I don't know why, other than they're fabulous to try to emulate. They're wonderful to learn what happened between man and God, or man and the angels, or man and man in ancient times, so that perhaps we don't keep repeating the same old mistakes and we can improve. This is the value of all this stuff. So, thanks for joining me in this Backyard Professor video series. I'm sorry I messed it up a little earlier. I didn't mean to. I thought I had it all figured out. See? I thought I was going to be able to make a smooth presentation and transition, and I about blew it. So, anyway, thanks for joining me. I'll bring some more information on Melchizedek out using this study as well as several other scholars. And in the meantime, remember, have a great life. It's fun to be alive. It's fun to learn. Yeah, baby.